Howdy y'all. Thank you for joining us today for this unboxing of DC deck building game Dark Nights Metal. It is a deck building game for 2 to 5 players that takes about 40 to 60 minutes to play for ages 15 plus.
Howdy y'all. Thank you for joining me today for this unboxing of DC deck building game Dark Nights Metal. Nice thing about these, I like getting all of them. I am one of those people that plays with all the cards mixed in from all different sets, even if it's not DC, or as they call it, the ultimate way of playing. But as you can see all of it here, this has to do with the Dark Nights Metal storyline. And it looks like they're going to go back into the events and things that they used to do from the other ones. So definitely interested in seeing it. And here's for the people who want to know if it's part of the Cerberus engine line. And we'll talk more about that. Basically what that means really is the Cerberus engine line means if you see this Cerberus engine heroes, it means you can mix all the Cerberus engine heroes games together and they will work together. And then there's also, I can't remember all of them, but there's different lines of them. And that's just letting you know that it uses the same engine to run the game. So hence, they will mix together, maybe with a little clunkiness. And we find that sometimes when we're playing the game while we're mixing it together. Plastic sticking. All right. I do notice this usually is from, it used to be they would put the promo card on the outside just taped on. And that's how you know you got it. It looks like now, I've noticed this for the last few runs, that usually they'll say the promo is inside the box. And that's how you know it's a first print run. All right, right back we got the book. Just should be pretty standard. It's got the overview, the contents, the setup. Lets you know how to do the lineup, the supervillain stack. Basically lets you know how to play a deck building game. If this is one of your first times, if you've never played a deck building game, most people confuse them with like Magic the Gathering or something. That's more of a deck construction game. A deck building game is going to be where y'all are going to be pulling from a same pool and building basically a deck or bag, or however you want to look at the pool building games. In this case, you'll be building a deck together, and each are separate, I should say. You're going to be putting a deck together individually to basically win the sum goal. They're really my favorite type of genre of games, so I do recommend it. One last thing I want to talk about in this rulebook that's always really cool, I've noticed on all these for the deck building games for DC, I like that they have in the back, you're still going to have to look up a lot of them, especially once you start mixing sets together. I like how they basically already have a lot of the cards they know are going to pose questions. And here it even talks about combining the sets. This just basically talks about how to basically combine them just with the, if you just want to just add stuff to this as an expansion. But it lets you know about the multiverse crossover pack. And when you get that, it's just a big box that lets you combine everything. But that thing will also tell you how you can combine everything else together also and give you some ideas. But for the most part, it's like most people talk about with this game, especially online. When you're putting things together, you kind of want to make sure it's just, if you're having fun and you're enjoying it, that's what the point of a game is. So, all right, so this is a divider for that multiverse box. It comes with several already, but then any games that came out after it, I've noticed they've started putting these in. I don't know if they've actually started printing them in the reprints of the old ones, but probably not. I would assume the multiverse box has, they know what they have in the multiverse box, and anything that was after is going to have these. But it's just a divider so you can have it all in the box and separate out your individual sets. All right, these are the characters. We'll take a definitely take a closer look at individually each of those. Then we got the cards, which any deck building game, that's pretty much what they're all going to be about, is the cards. So, yep, we'll be going through those. I will not go through each of them, I don't think, but we'll see once I'm revealing them. And then we have, okay, I thought it was going to be an event, but it turns out it's the Batman Who Laughs. It lets you know something unique about this. So like in this case, it says each time you gain a supervillain would cost 13 or less, rescue a captured character and gain 2 weakness cards. If any time there are no captured characters, the top card of the character stack becomes captured. So it looks like it's just an added rule where has to do with the story, from what I understand, where he's capturing these heroes and doing things with them. So you're trying to save them, basically. So Additional rule, and that's probably the main change. I always insist, look underneath the insert. I don't know how many times I've just thought, nah, I won't look under the insert, and then found something underneath the insert. But yeah, so for the most part, these games usually all play pretty much exactly the same. They usually have one key difference. Sounds like this is that one key difference. And when I say they play the same, I mean they play the same, but usually that's why you want to mix them. They play the same, but each of them have their own little feel and mix to each of them. So it's just what you want to mix in and add in. So that's basically what it goes down to. All right, before we go into these, we'll talk about the sleeves you're going to probably need. I can tell you from the other games that they are standard size. These are not the card sleeves I normally use. I'm actually out of the boxes. I just couldn't find the box for what I normally use. I do use the Dragon Shields for, I think I started sleeving these up in black. So basically, I'm just out of black at the moment. I think I just started doing that just because it was the one I had the most of at the time. But now I don't want to have to re-sleeve it all, so it's just in black. But you can sleeve up in whatever you want. All you're looking for is standard size is what you're going to need. The size you're going to need are going to be 88 by 63. I like the Dragon Shields. I like the way they shuffle, especially the matte. Actually, the matte is all I use. I refuse to use the classics. But the matte are always nice. But you can use anything you can find at your LGS or Walmart big box stores that are going to be basically standard Magic / Pokemon sized. And just look for 88 by 63. It doesn't have an exact count there, and I didn't look when I was looking at the rule book. But most of these games, and when it looks like this one's about the same, it looks like a little under 200 should be enough to sleeve up everything. So you're probably going to need, in the case with the Dragon Shields, 200. You can go get, if you just like the Arcane Tinman brand, but you don't want to have to buy the big price on Dragon Shields, especially if you're going to combine everything, because that's a lot of cards. Arcane Tinman does have a brand called Board Game Sleeves. You can find them at your LGSs. It's about $5 for 100 of them. So that could be a cheap way, and they can stand up to some good shuffling. I just feel that if you haven't played a deck building game, you're going to be doing a lot of shuffling, so you're going to want to make sure it's a sleeve that can withstand a lot of shuffling. All right. I started opening this, but we should probably go through the characters first. It's probably the easier ones to go through. So let's do that. So the characters are a bigger size. I found that you can use, in that same brand of board game sleeves, they have an oversize is what it's called. It'll work. The problem is it's going to have a huge about yay difference where it's going to be too long of a sleeve. But if you want, you can just get your normal graded top loaders and just make sure it says it'll fit the 88, or not 88 by 63. It's 3.5 by... Sorry, I should have looked this up before doing this. I just didn't think about it. I just remembered that these were the size cards. You can get graded top loaders and they should work. But I'm going to warn you, if you're using the top loaders, you're going to want to be careful sliding these into them, because if you're not careful, it will bend and crimp it. And then, of course, you defeat the purpose of randomizing if you're randomizing. But for the most part, you can find the oversized sleeves and it will fit them. All right, so we got Batman here. And these are the characters you're going to have where you'll be playing them, and it gives you a special ability. So Batman here, each time you play a weakness, look at the top card of your deck, destroy it or leave it. I can tell you right now, one of the people I play this game with will love this ability, for sure. And it's cool to have a different Batman. Usually the Batman just have something to do with equipment. This one has to do with weakness. That's pretty cool. Superman. It requires 3 weakness cards for your characters to become captured. The 3rd weakness is also returned to the stack. Each time you play a weakness, +1 power. So right now, just looking at that, it sounds like all these characters are going to have something to do with the weakness deck. Pretty cool. Once during each of your turns, if you control 2 or more equipment and or superpowers, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Well, I guess that throws that weakness thing out the window. But I can tell you right now for sure they are going a different direction on each of these heroes, which is pretty cool. Like Flash's original one was always you just got to go first, and you got to draw extra cards. In this case, once during each of your turns, when you play a defense card, draw a card. So it's still draw a card, but it has to do with defense. The second time you buy or gain a card from the lineup during each of your turns, you may destroy a starter you control. So Hal Jordan lets you get through the starters. Once during each of your turns, +1 power for each metal card you control. So cards like this, unfortunately, if you do mix everything in the way we always play, I guess these cards do become a little bit weaker, but to each their own, I guess. Once during each of your turns, if you control 2 or more villains and or superpowers, +1 power, and you may put cards you gain this turn on top of your deck. So that's kind of similar to one of his other powers, one of the other Aquamans. Mr. Terrific, once during each of your turns, you may gain a weakness and put it into your hand. If you do, draw 2 cards. So you gain weaknesses, but if you have a way to get rid of them, sounds good. Once during each of your turns, if you control 2 or more villains and or heroes, +2 power. Once during each of your turns, if you control 2 or more heroes and/or equipment, put up to 3 cards with cost 0 from your discard pile into your hand. Once during each of your turns, you may have the next card you play gain a type or subtype of your choice until the end of your turn. And they threw a villain in. If you play, normally you only just get heroes, but the Forever Evil end of it all added supervillains. So this is interesting in the fact that it ties into all that. Once per turn, when you destroy a card, draw a card. That sounds cool. All right. Like I said, we're not going to super go through these. We'll speed through them a little bit, just show you a little bit of them. Most of them are just going to be the starters, so it's going to be the same typical stuff that you see in all the games. Just different artworks, like the punches. These are all for the starting decks, so if you're new to deck builders, what it is, everybody starts with a number of these in their deck. An equal number, and those are the punches. They're just your basic starters like they were talking about. Vulnerabilities, the other things you start with in your deck, they're basically nothing. They're basically dead cards in your hand and your deck. You will start with 3 of those if it's like the basic game. And yeah, of course, you want to get rid of those because they do nothing. This looks like the kick. I've always called them kicks because of this game. The base cards are always called kicks. They're basically usually you pay 3 and you get +2 power, which is just a little bit better than your starter. And then they usually have different kicks for each one to do something different. This one, you may return this card to its stack. If you do, destroy a weakness or vulnerability you control. So there's a way of getting rid of some weaknesses right there. And speaking of weaknesses, these are going to be pretty basic. Oh, I should have said, the reason the kicks, the big deal about them is they don't shuffle in the deck. They're just going to be off to the side, and you can buy them in lieu of buying other cards, basically. All right, weaknesses. There's going to be ways of doing these. Let's see if these weaknesses are different from any other weaknesses. Typical weaknesses in the past have just been ones that either return themselves or from your deck. Basically, as you just play them, they go away, or they just give you negative victory points in the case of this, but they don't do anything, so there's more dead cards like the vulnerabilities. This one is play weakness cards before playing other cards or ending your turn. If you control 2 weakness cards, put 1 in your score pile and return the other to the stack. One of your characters become captured and your turn ends. Not sure about the score pile. That might have something to do with, like I said, if you mix certain games, there's a score pile. So it's just probably setting up ready for that, but this one might do that little bit of a difference. All right, these are probably going to be the super villains. Yep, these are going to be the guys you're trying to defeat to win the game. They'll be in a stack. This one, it's the Murder Machine, the Drowned, the Red Death, the Merciless, the Dawnbreaker, the Devastator, and Barbados. All right, so the rest of this is probably the actual player stack that you're going to play through. And I think from what I understood on this one, the big deal about this game was, or this version is, they have these metal cards, and the metal cards are basically foils. So we got Electrum here. It's a metal card, Dionysium, Prometheum, Batmanium, 8 metal Sunblade, Nth metal Mace, which I'm just curious if it's the same. Nope, it's different. Element X, Kendra Saunders, Steel, Cyborg 1,000,000, Onimar Sin. And forgive me, some of these characters, I wasn't a big DC fan until more recent years. Deathstroke, Lady Blackhawk, Carter Hall. And then we're getting into the normal cards now. And this is going to be all mixed together in a big deck. I just noticed these got foil lines. At least that one does. All right, we got Multiverse Map, Phantom Zone Projection, Phoenix Cannon, Carter Hull's Journal, T-Spheres, Anti-Monitor's Antenna, Plastic Man, Detective Chimp, Aquaman, Mr. Terrific, Dr. Fate, Hal Jordan, The Flash, Dream, Superman, Wonder Woman, Escape, Flight, which is the same. Oh, actually, no, I think it's called something else. X-Ray Vision, Hypertime, Fair Play, Speed Force, Search the Depths, Warcry, Falcom Abominus, Mecha Construct, Ankh Portal, Power Channeling, Brutal Chase, Rabid Robin. There's always one card. There's a bunch of in here. It looks like this is one of them. I should say in every set, like one has got Suicide Squad, another one's got the name escapes me right now. Manhunter. It's got the Manhunters, so there's several of them. Baby Darkseid. Yeah, Strigidae. Ra's al Ghul. Court of Owls. Black Manta. Starro. Black Adam. And then locations are interesting because they're like kind of like things that stay out and give you more abilities on top of your other abilities. Challenger Mountain, Tomb of Hathset, Oblivion Bar, the Dark Multiverse, Forge of Worlds. And there's just a randomizer. The randomizers are so if you're randomizing which games you're adding in. Someone like me, what I do is I just mix them all in and we just play with a random number of them. All right. Well, hope that lets you see kind of what's going on with this. I'm definitely going to mix it in. DC is one of my favorite deck building games. Deck building games are my favorites. So we'll definitely get this in and see how it goes. Maybe I can get a playthrough on the channel. We'll see. But thank you for joining me and have a great day.